Larger question, where do you fall if all of this ends up in the courts perhaps someday, particularly the larger question of accountability for all of this regime? Where do you fall with regard to a solution for the Supreme Court? Are you getting more closer to the possibility of expanding the court? Do you think that's yeah?
I think it makes sense for multiple reasons. So first of all, 9 is not a magic number. We have had as few as 5 Supreme Court justices on the court during the existence of our nation and of the court. We've had as many as 10. 9 is not a magic number. It would require legislation to expand the court. But here's the thing. We have expanded the number of trial court judges. Why? To norm for the expanding population and the increase in caseloads. We have expanded the number of appeals, courts of appeals judges, again, to norm for the increase in the population. We have 13 federal jurisdictions, and in theory, 1 Supreme Court justice is supposed to have supervisory responsibility over each of the 13, but some have to double up because we foolishly have never increased the number of Supreme Court justices. Now, I think the time is right. I think we have to also do it to try to address and attack what I see as this sort of radical right-wing bloc that have just departed from the text of the Constitution, and they are forever expanding executive power in ways that are not just unhealthy for our democracy, but contrary, I maintain, to the express terms of the Constitution. So I think there are lots of good reasons to do it. Accomplishing it is another thing, but I am a proponent of, 1, a mandatory code of ethics that are actually enforceable, that if Supreme Court justices violate, for example, our financial disclosure laws, they're required to disclose gifts that they're given, and yet it seems like people like Thomas and Alito are not doing that. Well, then you need a mandatory code of ethics that are actually enforceable, and increasing the number of justices. I am a proponent of those things.
Of course, I guess devil's advocate there would be, well, that's expanding the court sounds great when Democrats are in power, or when the party you like is in power. And I know it's the gift that keeps on giving if they serve for life, but do you see any issues with that? Like
none. Because listen, no matter what the Democrats do or don't do, the Republicans are going to abuse their power. They're going to bend the knee to, the Republicans in Congress have completely abdicated their responsibility to perform oversight on a runaway corrupt executive branch. So no matter what we do or don't do, the Republicans, it seems, are intent on abusing the American people and abusing governmental power. So why would we just tie our hands behind our back and say, we're not going to respond in kind? The real challenge for me, and I always go back to my football days. My pop was a high school football coach. I lived and breathed football growing up. If the other team is violating the rules, they're putting 13 men on the field, every play, and we're sticking to 11 men on the field because it's the right thing to do. Where does that get us? It gets us losing every game, every season. Yeah. I'm not an advocate for violating the rules. I'm a rule follower by nature, but we also have to fight with both gloves off. So there is friction between those two things.
So let's go to the larger issue of accountability when all of this is over, if it happens, and we, maybe statutes of limitations have expired. What does accountability look like? Are we talking about Nuremberg type trials? Are we talking about the International Criminal Court? Are we talking about Congress, where some of these people, maybe Todd Blanche, maybe Pam Bondi, refuse to show up for a congressional subpoena? Where do you see accountability going?
I think we need our version of the Nuremberg trials. Whether it's going to be the American Accountability Project or something else. For me, this is what accountability looks like. Once the rule of law comes back into the light of day, we have a law-abiding president and a law-enforcing attorney general. We present to grand juries honestly, ethically, impartially, but really aggressively. We present all of the evidence of the crimes of, let me just pick a crime, Pam Bondi lying to Congress and saying there is no evidence in the Epstein files of Donald Trump committing every crime, and everybody knows that. I think that is pretty much a verbatim quote. Then when she reluctantly felt compelled to disclose those FBI 302s, those write-ups of a witness interview with a 13 to 15-year-old girl, Frank, who presented direct evidence out of the mouth of the victim. This is what Donald Trump did to me. That's not even circumstantial evidence. That's direct evidence of Donald Trump committing a crime. And mind you, Pam Bondi didn't qualify her testimony with there's no credible evidence. She didn't even use the word credible. So she lied to Congress, inarguably, shooting fish in the barrel, making that false statement case. You present all of the evidence to a grand jury, and you let the grand jurors, sitting as the conscience of the community, decide if there's enough to indict. And if there is, you take them to trial. You try the crap out of the case. Then you deliver it to the hands of those 12 people sitting in a wooden box, again, as the conscience of the community. And the accountability job is done at that moment. You don't even have to await the verdict because you've done everything that you need to do to hold folk accountable. Then you let the people decide. And I have to believe, just like that jury sitting in New York who banged Trump out on 34 felonies in violation of New York state law, in a New York minute, the juries will get it right. That's what accountability looks like to this old prosecutor.
For sure. Yeah. No, thank you. I also go there. In fact, people are probably tired of me hearing that you need to go to Netflix and watch the Nuremberg movie. It's there now for free, and it's just phenomenal on how that played out. And credible victims.